Hey YouTube, so back again, and obviously recently I've processed a lot of orders regarding trusts, and in particular one very popular option has been the Nevis Trust, so I thought I'd make a video explaining some more information about the Nevis Trust. So again, it's very powerful for asset protection. I'd say Cook Islands is definitely number one, and obviously Nevis is up there, probably number two. So obviously financial privacy, unparalleled financial privacy, to be honest. Security, protection from creditors, XYZ, very good asset protection strategy to have that Nevis trust. So very fast to form. We can form a trust with the lawyers over in Nevis in about 5-6 working days. Very affordable. People ask for a cost, it's between a few £1,000 and maximum £8,000. It really depends how complex the bylaws are in setting up the trust. Now, there's a few different types of trusts, so obviously we can go into those in a meeting at a later date. But essentially, if a creditor wants to challenge a Nevis trust, right, they must post a bond of 270,000 of the EC dollar. And this is equivalent to $100,000. So making minimal claims basically irrelevant, if that makes sense. So foreign court judgments are not enforceable in Nevis as well, meaning lawsuits in other countries have no direct impact on your assets, which is a great asset protection strategy, right? So you can see why the popularity is there, the demand is there for those trusts, and e.g. that's why I'm making this video, to make you guys aware of how powerful these trusts can be, especially in Nevis. So the burden of proof is on the creditor. They must provide clear and convincing evidence of fraudulent activity, which is extremely difficult in Nevis. So extremely difficult is, to say the least, close to impossible, if you want the truth. So obviously there has been a few cases, but pretty irrelevant. I don't think they were successful. So it's complete financial privacy is another huge point of having one of these trusts in Nevis. So there's no records of any trust ownership. So your assets, identity of the beneficiaries of the trust, make it a very private location. So unlike a will, which becomes public upon death, a trust allows your estate to be passed on privately. So if you are interested in that generational wealth, passing on your wealth to your spouses, loved ones, friends, business partners, XYZ, it can be a great strategy for you. So it's pretty diverse. They can hold cash, securities, investment portfolios, real estate, business interests, intellectual property, vehicles, personal assets, even high-value collectibles such as artwork and jewelry can be owned by a trust. So essentially, the flexibility regarding the types of assets that a Nevis trust can actually own is great. But to properly transfer assets into a trust, titled assets must be re-registered, whereas untitled assets can be listed in the trust documents, if that makes sense. So business and wealth management benefits, there's a lot of these. So you could structure the trust to allow the generational wealth transfer to be as effective, private, and perfect as possible, essentially. So the trustee in Nevis manages the assets. If you didn't know how a trust works, you probably should do before watching this video. You can search it on Encyclopedia, whatever the website is on Google. But there's usually a trustee and a beneficiary and a trust. There's no owner of a trust. So that's one of the foundations of the asset protection, and obviously in particular environments such as Nevis, Cook Islands, there's very favourable laws due to no foreign court judgments, for example. It's been like this forever, always will be like this. Very good stuff. So the structure is also highly tax efficient, but obviously it can come into your home country's taxes. But obviously, if you don't own it, there's a few grey area questions there. But you can set up a Nevis Trust with me very simply. You know, we organise for lawyers, we organise for trustees. If you then need an additional protector, so a protector is someone who then a protector is someone who just looks over a trustee to make sure he's managing it correctly. Sorry, the pool cleaner has just arrived. He just bowls into the garden. So again, it's basically drafting the trust deed and the other supporting documents, basically ensuring all the assets are being transferred correctly into the trust, and obviously filing the necessary documentation to the authorities over in Nevis. All of this takes around 4 to 5 days. Now, the consultations with me might take another week, 2 weeks, just to really speak about, maybe trigger some questions to you that could be good for you to find out. Maybe you've got some extra questions about buying a vehicle, doing this. Should it own a holding company? How should it be structured? This is typically very common, you know. And again, obviously, banking capabilities are a little bit reduced, so people generally do obviously hold those their holding companies, operational companies, and drips down into a structure, as you've seen in my other videos. But yeah, that can be a very strong benefit of the asset protection. Now, once formed, your assets are legally protected. You will enjoy the peace of mind that comes from financial privacy and security, no matter how much local governments scrutinise financial privacy, which I find ridiculous. It's ridiculous anyway. But yeah, the costs really depend on the complexity, whether you want to include a Nevis attorney and the types of assets being transferred, typically between £1,500 and £8,000. So how I do this with my clients, I help them through the entire process, and I'll just charge a £2,000 professional fee for making sure they are in the right hands. In addition, obviously, banking capabilities are provided with my service as well. We connect you with those perfect parties that can bank you in London, Luxembourg, Singapore, Hong Kong, US if you wanted that. Or if you wanted a local bank in Nevis, we have those connections as well. I have all of these guys on my WhatsApp, so we can facilitate those needs. And sometimes these can be a little bit complicated with trusts, but not really with the right providers. Obviously, you're not going to straight away be an HSBC Premier. But once you've got those financial statements, you can then potentially build a profile over at DBS in Singapore, a very great private bank. Obviously, there's some minimal balance requirements for that, approximately about $250,000 US, $270,000 actually. So, yeah, that's it. That's the Nevis Trust. Hope it was useful, guys. And I guess I'll see you in the next video. Going to record some more about some payment licenses and potentially some about some onshore companies, as they can be very useful as well.